All right. Awesome. Okay, we are on and we're live. I just got to make sure I have to make sure we don't, okay, here, 1 second. I got to make sure we.
I'm jealous for your case.
Google Hangouts here. Okay, so there's that. Okay, folks, so we're just getting ready here. It's going to take just a moment. I just got to make sure we mute that, and that way we don't have any echo. And there we go. Okay, so very cool. So what we're going to do is we are going to basically go through, we're essentially going to go through the different gardening methods that are available to gardeners and the ones we've used in the past, and basically go through the ones we like the most. Definitely make sure to hold your comments and your questions till the very end. We're going to do a Q&A on that. We're pressed on time, so that's why we started right at 8, and we're going to go till
8:30.
8:30. Okay. We usually go over. This time we're not, I promise. So that's why we have to be quick. So I'm gonna get back to our Hangout here so I can see us in real time. That way I know if the stream freezes. So what we're going to do, I got our little notepad here with all the different methods on it, and we're basically just going to go through them, share the pros and cons of them, and then give our thoughts about them. So I'm gonna let Cindy go off with the first one because I think that's the one you know probably the most. That's one you've done a lot of that.
So the first one that I've had some experience with is called in-ground. So basically, you guys, most of you know, it's you just start with what you have, just bare soil there. You can build on it as well, and it's really easy to start as well. And it's if you need a change, you can. So it's not like a raised bed if you commit to it. Well, also you can also change with a raised bed, but
well, it's a little more structural.
Yeah.
So with a raised bed, it's kind of like you have a raised bed, or if you want to. So basically, with the pros and cons to starting in ground is that it's very easy to transition to another method if you find it's not working for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the nicest things about it, because once you get raised beds, you're kind of committed in cost and in the fact that you have now wooden beds in your lawn. So you want to go through some of the cons, or do you want me to do that?
You can.
Okay. So the cons to growing in ground is obviously the fact that your success is totally dictated by your success is totally dictated by the quality of soil that you have. So assuming your soil quality is great, you're going to have great success. However, in my experience, what I found is that can be one of the hardest things to do for most people is to have good soil. And I know you guys had amazing soil at your house.
Yeah, my parents' house in Chicago, they had really good soil. They did nothing at all to it. My dad would just plant on it, and like for 3 years he started to plant, and then now this year he kind of saw the repercussions of not tending to it or nurturing back up because this year his habaneros didn't grow as nicely as years past. So
1 second here. I'm freezing up in like really obnoxious ways. Okay, I just want to make sure it's not freezing up for everybody here. It's like really freezing up on our end. Okay, I think we're still good. Okay, so yeah, so you had amazing soil. We, on the other hand, did not have amazing soil. At the cottage and at our house, we're located on quite a higher elevation here, and it was higher elevation in terms of Chicago to where we're at on the east side of Michigan and the Thumb. It's very heavy clay, very, very, very heavy clay. In fact, you can make pottery. There's a company that makes pottery out of the clay that they have here. It's just incredible how much clay there is in the soil. So that's a no-go for us. But we did do a video on that. We did a video on using Google Earth or Google Maps to see if you have good soil. Different topic for a different day. We're short on time. But check that video out because it's gonna walk you through kind of knowing if you have good soil and why you might have good soil based on your location. So the next one is raised beds. Now, raised beds is something that we have always been a proponent of. I don't think I could have gone even a couple months without having raised beds because the soil, like I said, the soil quality here was terrible. I know we set up raised beds for you once we started dating and stuff. It was kind of something that was like you guys need some raised beds, even though to be honest, they didn't need raised beds. They were definitely very lucky. But raised beds for us, it is so easy to control the quality of soil. You're not in the beds. You're not stomping down the soil, so you don't compact it. It drains very freely, so you get good drainage, and with that comes with good aeration. We also talked about this we talked about this kind of stuff in not only the 5 benefits of raised beds, but also what makes good quality soil. So check out those 2 videos if you haven't already. Those are going to walk through more in depth kind of some of those things we're talking about. But one of the cons of raised beds is obviously cost, and then also I didn't have any cons written down, but there are cons.
Well, yes, everybody gets scared because of cost, but there's definitely ways that you can go about it.
We have done it.
Videos.
Yeah, we've done inexpensive raised beds, so it can be done, but cost can be one of those things, and also the fact that you sometimes if you have to bring in new soil. We showed you how to use some of your native soil, but in most cases you're gonna have to bring in some additional soil. That also brings in some extra cost, and there's some continued labor to that. But there's a few cons. Everything we have here is going to have a pro and a con. It's not that we hate it. I do want to make a good point of that the pros and the cons that we're going to outline a pro for us might be a con for you. I don't know how it could, but it might. And a con for us might not be a con for you, or it might not be as big of a con. So don't let it deter you. And one thing that I've always said is that regardless of the gardening method you choose, you're going to typically end up with the same result if you do that method to the best of your ability. So if you're growing in ground to the best of your ability, you're going to have very similar results to someone who's growing in raised beds. The idea behind different gardening methods is that it suits different people, so that you can find something that works best for you. So so there's the pros and cons to building raised beds. What's so funny?
This is Michael Sean says bad soil, go to your room.
So
I'm trying to monitor the comments, and we're not ignoring you guys. We definitely want to say hi back.
Save comments and questions to the very end, though. Save comments and questions to the very end. I know I see quite a few people asking. Excuse me. Wow. This is not carbonated, but we just had dinner. So I see a lot of questions. Just save them to the very end. If we have any time left over, we'll answer those questions then. We still have a lot of methods to go through. The next one on our list was mulching, and I also threw no-till gardening into that. Mulching and no-till is a very, very, very good method. It obviously results in less weeds because you're mulching and suppressing a lot of those weeds. You are allowing the soil to be covered, which we talked about in like what makes a good cover crop, or why should I cover the soil, or it was called what makes a good mulch. Yeah. Just made that video. Check that one out. It'll cover why you want to cover the soil, but it covers the soil, does a very good job of that. And then also it obviously it prevents compaction and stuff as well. So you're going to have a lot of those benefits, and it holds in moisture because it really will. It'll allow for the wood chips to hold on to that moisture, so it's not leaving through evaporation. Now, one of the cons to mulching is obviously it takes time for the mulch to break down. If you want to put it in a thick enough layer that it suppresses most of the weeds, it takes time to break down. Another thing is that hardy weeds, like really resilient weeds, they're still going to find a way through. There's no surefire way to get rid of weeds. Any garden is going to have weeds, and that's one of the most honest things that I can tell people is that they go into back to Eden method expecting to not have any weeds, and there will always be weeds. It just is going to happen. You're going to have. Weeds can
be your friends too.
Weeds can be your friends, exactly. So weed is only determined as an unwanted plant. Yeah. So
plus, if you beat them, right?
Well,
or they start outgrowing your plant, then it's better.
We've talked about how you can grow right alongside with weeds and not have to weed your entire garden. So there's also a video on that. What's it called? how we have a weed-free garden without doing any work, I think. Something like that. Go check it out. You'll like it as well. Next one. Do you want to talk about hydroponics? You've seen me do with hydroponics, but I want you to do some talking too. I don't want to do all the talking. Everyone always says I do all the talking.
Luke is the garden guru. I am more of his little vehicle.
Give it a shot. Give it a shot. Give it a shot. You've seen me for 3 years gardening hydroponically, and you definitely had your hand in it enough to know. Well, and I got the notes right there for you. I pre-made all the notes, so don't worry.
We're really prepared for you guys.
No one's gonna critique you.
However, things that I can say that are really good about hydroponics is something. If you have like your setup, you can grow all year round, no matter how the weather is. Like that won't dictate your harvest as long as you're upkeeping it. And the con can be a little bit of an investment because you have to have the lights, you have to have the space inside your home. They grow kind of at the same speed, no?
Hydroponics tends to grow a tad bit faster because it's water soluble nutrients. Most of those well, actually not most, all of those nutrients are going to be fast acting nutrients. So they're going to be nutrients that are in a plant available form, so that they can be just uptaken readily. Whereas in a garden, you have what's called fast acting and slow release. Fast release, slow release to keep things the same. And basically, that can be an inhibitor to plant growth, where you might have a healthier plant overall because it's growing in a more natural way. But in terms of plant, like the speed at which it grows, hydroponic is known for just being faster, which isn't always a great thing. Now, things like lettuce, we have a video where we showed start to finish lettuce in 28 days. So you'd never get that in an in-ground garden or in any of the outdoors methods. So,
and you can get really creative because you've shown setups where you would use just a bucket.
Right.
Or there's also
you don't have to make it expensive. We have methods where you make it inexpensive, but the lighting to grow it is kind of one of the biggest investments for most people. And
there's even people that fertilize it with like fish.
Well, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that's the next one.
Aquaponics.
That's the next one. That's aquaponics. Okay. We're going to get to that. Don't worry.
Right.
But the last thing that I had as a con is that you're dependent on fertilizers. With other methods, you can wean off of fertilizers to a certain extent to basically, you can feed your garden with stuff like scraps from the garden, using plant waste and composting it, recycled leaves and grass clippings and byproducts from the home. You can throw them into a vermicomposting bin and turn that into a fertilizer for your plants. So you can slowly wean off of fertilizer using other methods. But since hydroponics is strictly, and I mean strictly, I don't care what anyone says, hydroponics is an inorganic, it's all inorganic. It's synthetic fertilizers. So you're going to have a synthetic fertilizer, and so regardless of what you do, you're going to be dependent on those fertilizers. So there is some cost there, and there's some cost to start up. So it's one of those things where, if growing indoors is the only method you have, well, then you can't be complaining about the cost because you're either growing something or you're growing nothing. So aquaponics, I mean, you were jumping right on into that. I mean, go for it. Just go for it. Go for it. Well, I got the notes right there if you get nervous. Okay. Not that you get nervous.
Okay, well, Luke has here noted that the pros are organic hydroponics, raises 2 crops at once. And the cons are that it can be expensive. You need a lot of room, and fish food is expensive. So this is talking more or less about a closed gap, I guess. You're recreating kind of what would happen outside, but instead you're using the fertilizer from fish with their poop, and it's going back into the plants to feed them. So that way it leaves you a little bit less dependent on those on the
synthetic fertilizer. It's actually an organic method of hydroponics.
Yeah.
But it is set aside differently because you're using fish. So it's hydroponic, but in a different way.
Yeah, it's like a slight variation of something else.
So I see we're running just a wee bit short on time, so we gotta hurry through these. The next one is Hyuga Culture. Now, a lot of you have seen Hyuga Culture. That is using large stumps and burying them, making kind of a berm and then growing inside of that berm. So the pro to that is that it's going to amend the soil very deep because you're digging a trench to essentially grow on top of. You're filling that trench with organic matter. Then obviously it also, I'm reading off of my notes, so don't feel bad that you have to read off notes, because there's so many here that they just, they all interlink. Obviously it conserves water because the logs have, they have a relatively low surface area, so they'll absorb that water, but they don't really give it off very well. So they will hold on to that water and use it as kind of a storage tank, if you will. The cons is it can be kind of unsightly to some people. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So some people don't like having a giant mound in their yard that, may or may not look bad. It requires logs. So some people don't have access to logs.
Yeah.
And also it takes time to break down, just like in the back to Eden method. So you're going to have a case in which there'll be a period of time where you want to condition the bed and let it kind of season and start to break down. Otherwise, there's a very advanced term that we like to call nitrogen sequestration. It's a big term. It basically just means that nitrogen, through the breaking down of organic matter, gets taken. So, if you have 10 units of nitrogen and the breaking down process takes, let's say, 7 of those away, you only have 3 units of nitrogen left to grow plants with. And a lot of your plants will require, I'm just throwing this out here, it's just for the sake of demonstration, a lot of your plants will require, let's say, 5 to 7 units of nitrogen. So you're going to have a nitrogen deficiency unless you let the plants break down. So that's one of those things. On that topic of nitrogen sequestration, I wanted to jump into the next method that a lot of people talk about, but a lot of people struggle with. Straw bale gardening. Straw bale gardening is awesome because it's awesome because you can grow pretty much anywhere. The beds can be easily moved around, and they're pretty mobile because it's just a straw bale, so you don't have to necessarily commit to a certain place. So you can grow anywhere, well, almost anywhere. It is relatively inexpensive. A straw bale in our area, again, this will vary by area, but in our area, you can grow in a straw bale for maybe, like, what depends on the season too. In the off season, a little more expensive, but in the season that they're cutting hay, it's like $2 to maybe $3 for a straw bale. Around Halloween time, when everyone wants straw bales and they're not really cutting straw, you're going to pay $7 and $8 for a straw bale. But
that's something you haven't really done demonstration.
We have not done straw bale gardening. Well, we did, but this is one of those things that we tried it and didn't like it at all. But you might have different results, partially because of the nitrogen sequestration. Straw is 100% carbon. I can't say 100%, but you have brown ingredients and the green ingredients. And when you're looking at making compost, you need a 3 to 5 ratio. So you need 3 parts green to 5 parts brown. Remember that infogram you did? Cindy made an awesome infogram about it. I'll see if I can find it. I'll post it on Facebook later.
Someone has a question regarding is straw or hay in general. Straw.
Well,
is it the same thing?
Just hold on. Wait, because we're at, it's 8:19, so we have 11 minutes, and I have 2 more to go through. So I promise we'll get to your question if we have time. It's just there's a lot of people that ask about these, and this is the only way we're going to get them all out, is if we just fire through them. So because there is almost all carbon in the straw bale, you have a problem with nitrogen sequestration. You have to apply a ton of nitrogen to the bale, and then what you have to do, it's called conditioning, where you break down the place where you're going to plant, where you actually have to decompose part of that, which takes a lot of nitrogen and a lot of time to get it to that point. And then you can plant in it. But the other problem is it dries out very easily because you have air on all sides. It does have good aeration, so the roots can go down farther in the soil, but you have air on all sides, which will dry it out. So a lot of people that don't get rain very often find that they have to water a lot, and water can be expensive in certain areas. I know here we are blessed in our new house. The water is actually tied in. It's a flat rate for everybody, which is great for gardeners and terrible for people who don't use a lot of water. We won't take advantage of it. We'll still use it like we always would, because we think being wasteful is not that awesome of a thing to do. But in other places, it can be very, very expensive. So that's why we chose not to like that. We didn't like that method as much as others. Now, the one that we loved the most was core gardening. What'd you think of the core beds this year?
Oh, that was really good. I think it, I don't know, it created, because like you put straw hay in the center, and it just kind of, I don't know, it worked out nicely because we didn't have to water too much. We never, well, again, I mean, I can go through it if you want. I mean, not very rarely, but
I just wanted your take on what you thought about it, because I mean, when we were talking about core gardening, I was trying my hardest to find any cons that there was, because the pros are it's minimal effort. You know, contrary to Hyuga Culture, it has all the benefits of Hyuga Culture without all the work. So if you're someone that can't lug around a big log or don't have big logs, it uses grass clippings, shredded leaves. In our case, we use straw because we wanted to replicate as close to humanly possible what they do in a sub-Saharan environment, like they do in Africa, where they have Sahara grass, but they don't have a whole lot of trees because most of their trees have been used up for firewood. In those cultures, I mean, that's what leads to desertification, is the fact that they use all the trees for firewood in those third world countries, and all they have is grass. And so they'll use the grass on top of a mound in the form of kind of a Hyuga Culture, holds onto water like a freaking sponge. I mean, this thing, it was wet all season. Yeah. It broke down fast, so you could redo it it broke down fast, so you didn't have the nitrogen sequestration problem, because you combine a high nitrogen, kind of not really a high nitrogen fertilizer per se, but it could have been manure. In our case, we use trifecta. Trifecta is ridiculously awesome for core gardening that we found, because it has the fast and slow release nutrients. But it has essentially nitrogen that you put on to the beds. You grow in the soil as the core slowly breaks down and is used as a sponge. So your plants can use the water, and then they use the nutrients that come from the hay breaking, or the straw breaking down. The only con to core gardening that we found was that initially it takes a lot of water to charge the core. So it's like a sponge. If you put just a little bit of water on the sponge, it doesn't really do much. I mean, the sponge holds on to it, but you can squeeze it as hard as you want, and it might just kind of remain damp. The secret is to soak the sponge and to really charge it, so that what happens is you can go long periods of time, and hopefully in that window of time it's going to rain, and that rain recharges the core. If you just dampened it a little bit, number one, your plants would have a hard time getting water, and number two, you might not make it to the next rain period. That's why it works amazing in dry climates. So I love it. It is the best method. And in our case, we actually combined core gardening. So we had the benefits of core gardening with the benefits of raised beds. We put them in our raised beds. So it's kind of one of those things where you can combine it with other things as well. You can even combine it with in-ground gardening. If you combine core gardening with in-ground gardening, it's like it is the perfect marriage of two gardening methods. And then the very last one, we're running so short on time, is container gardening. Now, container gardening, everybody knows, is small footprint. You can grow on patios, apartments, doesn't matter, because you're using pots. And so you can move the pots around if you need to move to a place of better sunlight. And it's great for apartments as well, because you might not have a lawn. So it's versatile in that sense. Now, the thing is it can be very expensive, because pots can be, pretty expensive. You can
get as fancy and as non-fancy as you want.
Right.
And there's so many prices.
But it does cost money,
yes,
to buy pots. And so some of these methods are pretty inexpensive, but a big pot which is one of the cons as well that I had here, is the pot size limits growth. So if you have a big plant, you're gonna need a big pot. And even if you're growing in a small plastic pot, or I mean a large plastic pot, around about like Lowe's, probably what, like $20-$25 around there.
I would say
So
average.
So
15, 25.
yeah, $15-$25 for a large enough plastic pot to grow a tomato in, and so that's $15-$25 for a single tomato plant. That's pretty pricey when you're looking at.
Like, you'll see a return of your investment a little bit.
Yeah, you will, but it'll take a couple years too.
Yeah, it'll take some time.
And they do dry out fast. That's the last con that I had for that, is that the pots tend to dry out fast because they hold limited amount of soil, and the sun and the rain comes on all sides. So we have about 5 minutes for Q&As. Sorry to have rushed through that so much. We allotted 30 minutes, and I thought 30 minutes would be enough, but there's a lot of gardening methods to get through. And we didn't even talk about all of them. I mean, we didn't talk about the benefits of organic versus inorganic, which is a gardening method all in itself. But we hope that you watch our channel enough to know the benefits of organic versus inorganic. So let's pick out some questions here. Let's see. Gadianton says, I had reasonable luck with tomatoes in 5-gallon buckets. Yeah, 5-gallon buckets are great for growing tomatoes in, and that's a free method. Awesome, great point there. That can definitely cut down some of your cost. You can go to your local bakery, and it will be really easy to get some. I think they pretty much throw them out if you don't claim them, and you can put on a waiting list. So go check that out. Okay, I do want to get to this one, hay or straw. Hay is what they feed to animals. You do not want to put hay in your garden. Reason being is loaded with weed seeds. And again, weeds is just an unwanted plant, but trust me, you do not want hay growing in your garden, unless of course you want to feed goats or anything like that. Then you could try growing it. But if you want to use it in a gardening method, do not use hay. Straw all day, every day. Straw has far less weed seeds, and it's cheaper, to just be honest, because they use it to feed animals with. So you're using a byproduct. Straw is just a byproduct of the hay harvesting. So Mitt leader method, any thoughts? I actually was going to put the Mitt leader method in there. I knew with time it'd be hard, and had I put it in there, I wouldn't have had time. Mitt leader method, it's very much, you're growing in sand and sawdust. So it's like a combination of in-ground gardening with hydroponics. The thing is you're very dependent on inorganic fertilizers. So if you are looking to grow organic like us, it's something that we couldn't do. You can't grow with Mitt leader and organic at the same time, because you're essentially using very high NPK fertilizers to feed the plants, boost them, and then you kind of just keep that going. So you're dependent on the fertilizers, which can be expensive, and you're not growing organically. So if you're someone that wants to grow organic, it's not going to fly. Let's see here. What substance would be the best type of sponge? Well, in our case, we used straw. We used rotting straw because unrotted straw has kind of a waxy cambium layer. And
so we actually would kind of suggest people, if you're in your off season, to get some straw now. No,
yeah,
because that
right now would be a great
start
time.
Decomposing a little bit, or even like in the earlier spring.
Early spring would be a good time as well. It's just hard. It's hard to get. You have to do a lot of searching in early spring because it's the off season. The best time to get it would be like right now, because you can still get it in a lot of places. A lot of people might still have theirs around from Thanksgiving. I don't know who would, but you might have some people that have that. But check Craigslist too. Craigslist is a great place. We got all of our hay bales or straw bales, hay bale, straw bales. We got all of our straw bales on Craigslist, and so that way we kind of negotiate the price, because you're not getting it from like a Lowe's or a Home Depot, which they're not gonna negotiate a price for you. So yeah, so we bought like 10, and we got a good deal for buying 10 of them. So yeah, rotting straw is what we used. You can use leaves, grass clippings. I've heard a lot of people having success with even small twigs. Small twigs will break down fast. So
Someone's asked about wood chips, using them in their raised bed garden.
where is the question? I didn't see. I was not paying attention to that question.
We just got 4 yards of wood chips. How should I use these in my raised bed garden?
Oh,
Love it, Josh.
awesome. Okay, Josh, if you just got 4 yards of wood chips, use them as a mulch. Use them as a mulch. You don't want to dig them into the ground, because then you have nitrogen sequestration. It's going to steal the nitrogen from your soil and rob it, and you're going to have the most miserable time gardening. So put them on top of the soil. Use them as a way to suppress weeds, and you can still grow with other methods. You can grow in ground and apply mulch. You know, a lot of these methods that we have here, a lot of these methods, they can be, that was
Wrong
not
page.
Yeah, wrong page. A lot of these methods can be combined, you know, and that's one of the things that's nice too, is you can pick and choose which ones you want, and you can combine some of the pros, and obviously it will combine some of the cons as well, but it might also reduce some of the cons.
Right.
So like mulching will fix the soil. So if you have poor soil, you can mulch and grow in ground. So ta-da, it's not magic, folks. So yeah, so use it as a mulch, and you're gonna have much better results with it. Make sure though that if you mulch, it's at least 2 inches thick. Otherwise it will do diddly squat for you. I made that mistake way too many times, and it just, the weeds will laugh at you. It won't suppress anything. Okay.
Yeah, pine needles are good.
Pine needles are awesome mulch. And if you can get your hands on them, contrary to belief, they do not acidify soil. We covered that in a video. Pine needles do not acidify soil. Load them on as heavy as you can. They're going to do great as a mulch, and they break down fast because they have relatively low surface area, but they're spindly, so they break down very quickly, because when combined, they have a lot of surface area. It's one pine needle has very, very, very terrible surface area, but you put a lot of pine needles together, and that's when they start breaking down, because they kind of use each other as a catalyst to decompose. Well, 1975 says it doesn't. J. D. Onoff. Sorry, I butchered your name. It says it doesn't steal the nitrogen, just locks it up. Correct. Absolutely. Definitely, I misspoke. It does lock it up. You will get the nitrogen back. The bacteria in the soil, they use the nitrogen to decompose, but then once it's decomposed, you get the nitrogen back. So it's just that waiting period where a lot of people have the nutrient deficiencies, is waiting for the nitrogen to come back. So you know what I mean? It's just one of those things that it's not gone forever. So I apologize if anyone thought that, and thank you. I definitely do not want anyone to think that it's gone forever. It's just gone temporarily because someone else is borrowing it. Some towns have local organic dumps and will let you pick up leaves for free, and tree trimming services and landscaping companies drop stuff off right at your house. That's absolutely true. We actually used that method. And I'm glad you brought that up as well. Is one of the benefits to having like a local tree trimming service is they actually pay someone to drop off their stuff. They have to pay a landfill or something like that to take their tree trimmings and organic matter, essentially, and wood chips. But if you call them and say, hey, drop it off at my house, you're not going to get the highest quality wood chips. It's not going to be the most aesthetically pleasing. You'll probably get some long splinters and some twigs and maybe even some leaves in there. But for a gardener, we don't care about that. You're going to get it for free, which is awesome, or near free. We were kind enough to pay for their gas, because at the cottage garden where we had 30 yards of mulch delivered, the mulch itself was free, but the drive to get there was definitely not free for them. And I just I don't like abusing people's kindness. So we paid for their gas, but we could have gotten it for free had we been closer. So let's do one more. Just pick a random one. We'll do one more. We're over time, but it doesn't matter.
So I Tony's Gardening will get in touch with you regarding your order. And Debbie, she mentioned that she's still growing kale right now in December.
Yeah,
she plans
check out our video on five cold hardy plants that will survive a freeze and a frost. That's a super, super good point. You can grow lots of stuff even into December, even over winter it, heck.
So we have Sergio. He asks, he wants to pollinate tomatillos and he doesn't have pollinators. And he did not have any luck with hand or with an electric toothbrush. What should he do?
Very, very good. It's a common problem with people with tomatillos, nothing else. Generally, a plant like a tomato is self-pollinating. The male and female components are in one flower, meaning you can just vibrate it with a toothbrush, tap it with your finger, tickle it, whatever you want to do with it. What you do to your flowers is up to you. Just don't tell me about it. But tomatillos require two plants to cross-pollinate. And so one of the problems is you could vibrate the flowers till your heart's content and they're not going to cross-pollinate. So what you have to do is you actually have to take a flower, detach it from one plant, and actually physically take it over and take the pollen from the flower and pollinate the other plant. Otherwise, you'll never have tomatillos. Wow. Tomatillos are a lot like, in a way, a lot like apples and other things like that. Apples themselves are self-fertile, but to have the best results, they suggest having two different strains of apples. Kiwis, same thing. You're gonna have a male and a female kiwi. Without a male and a female kiwi, you're not gonna have kiwi fruit. So definitely, it's the best way to hand pollinate is to remove the whole flower itself and make the two say hello in whatever way you have possible. Don't tell me how you do it. So anyways, I appreciate everyone for tuning in for this live stream. It was a lot of fun. And I really do think Cindy has been wanting to do a lot more during the off season in terms of live streams. And so I definitely would love to do more as well, because it's a great way to get information out to you in real time, answer your questions in real time. And it's a great way to engage with the community. And so I appreciate everyone for turning out for this live stream. If you do have any more comments or questions, though, or for people watching after the live stream, because this will be live for people to watch, you can post your questions in the comments box, and I will try to get to them. I'm very, very busy around this time of year, but I do spend time answering comments. So I would love that.
Christina asked about midweek snack.
Midweek snack, yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to promise. I don't want to say anything. So
don't promise about it. But Cindy has been wanting to do more midweek snacks. But for those of you that haven't seen our second channel, I guess this is a good time to plug it. YouTube.com/MICASAVLOGS. YouTube.com/MiCasaVlogs. I'll put it in the description box or something, because I know there's so many people not even getting it. But that has some cooking on it. That has us, and we're going.
It's mostly cooking.
We're going to do more cooking though in the summertime, and it's a way that we can keep cooking on kind of a different channel, kind of a more behind the scenes, because a lot of people want to see. Well, a lot of people want to see how we cook the harvest and how we use the harvest in cooking. But then there's a very good amount of people that don't care about cooking whatsoever, and so we're keeping it on a second channel for that reason.
So there are some people requesting the hydroponics and such like that, and we already have the setup at Luke's parents' house, so we're definitely going to jump up soon. Maybe sometime very soon.
We usually start up around the new year, because it correlates perfectly with the off season. So right now we're still doing stuff outside, believe it or not. We're still doing stuff when we can outside in the garden. So the hydroponics ties in perfectly with like the new year, and then that carries us almost right into seed starting. So that's why we're gonna be doing it. Trust me. So anyways,
wait 1 second.
We gotta go.
Oh no, it's okay.
We're so short on time.
Couple more minutes.
No, we are so short on time. We have orders to still get out, and it's late.
Okay,
Unless,
so
oh wait, one more, and then we do have to go.
Whoever types the fastest gets their question answered.
So yeah, we appreciate everyone's orders, and because of that,
you will be able to still purchase seeds from us. However, no, the Thailand regulations and all of that, because we're not responsible if you don't make it through customs.
Yep.
And however, I think we've shipped before to Thailand, have had no issues.
We shipped I think 2 times to Thailand and have not had an issue. So.
But lucky you'll be in Thailand, and we would love to be there and have mangoes.
When is the next live stream? Okay, that's the last question. There you go. Okay, so the next live stream, we're going to try to do it hopefully on kind of a bi-weekly basis. We don't want to promise a weekly basis because a lot of times we just don't have it in the schedule.
We don't want to overpromise.
We don't want to overpromise and underperform. We'd rather underpromise and overperform. So we're going to aim for every other week. If we happen to be there next week, you'll know about it because we'll post about it on Facebook. We'll let people know on Twitter. So we have these other things called social media pages. If you haven't followed us on those things called social media pages, we have a Facebook, we have a Twitter, we have an Instagram, a Tumblr. I don't know why we have a Tumblr. Do we tumble much?
No.
We have a Tumblr. You can follow us.
I don't know why we have a Tumblr.
We have a Tumblr.
Wants to be everywhere.
Casting a wide net, remember?
Woo, Central Michigan.
So follow us there, and you'll know about it.
Not us. You guys are great.
Follow us on our social media, and you'll know about it. All right.
One more question. He's gonna kill me.
You're pressed. I won't kill you, but you'll be packing the orders. I'll be sleeping.
Bi-monthly.
All right. Hey, we'll catch you all later. Hopefully you all are having a great day. Hopefully you all had a great day. Let us know in the comments box below if you have any questions, comments, concerns. Send us an email if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or wherever you want to post them. We'll get to them. And as always, remember to...
just kidding. Go big or go home, guys. And we'll see you in the next live stream or video. So take care.
All right. Go big or go home. See ya. Bye. Okay.
We'll be leaving soon.